Welcome to this deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we are going to be talking about group work. And I know that might sound a little scary, especially when you're in a new country and trying to learn a new language.
Absolutely.
And on top of all of that, you have to deal with new social and educational norms.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to adjust to.
But don't worry, because in this deep dive, we are going to unpack the concept of group work and see how it can actually help you learn and grow and connect with others, and even learn to trust your own intuition more.
Absolutely.
So to start off, can you give us a little bit of background on group work? What exactly is it? Why does it seem like it's everywhere?
Well, first of all, welcome everyone. So you'll find that group work is pretty common, like in classrooms, workplaces, and even in casual settings, like if you're just hanging out with friends. It's all about collaboration, and there's actually a term for it, collaborative learning.
Okay.
Which is when people work together towards a shared goal.
So it's more than just dividing up a school project?
Right. Exactly. The source material brings up tons of examples like brainstorming for marketing campaigns, community initiatives where people work together to make their neighborhoods better, and even athletes training for a big competition.
So for someone who is new to a country and trying to learn a new language, how can group work actually be beneficial for them?
It's a great question, and this is where it gets really interesting. Group work gives you unique advantages that can actually help you learn faster and integrate into a new culture more smoothly.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think of it this way. When you're part of a group, you're working with people who have diverse perspectives and experiences. This is really valuable for someone who's still figuring out how things work in a new culture.
But honestly, wouldn't it be faster to just do everything on your own and try to figure things out independently?
Well, it may seem that way, but group work actually has a hidden advantage. When you have more than one person working on a problem, you're more likely to come up with creative solutions and catch mistakes. Plus, explaining your ideas to others and getting feedback can help you understand the material better.
So it's not just about the outcome, but the process of working together that helps you learn.
Yeah. And don't forget the social aspect. Group work gives you a chance to connect with people who are going through similar experiences. You're all in the same boat, learning a new language, adjusting to a new culture, and facing similar challenges.
Yeah, so it's like finding your people in this new place you're in.
Absolutely. It helps create a sense of belonging.
But I'm still a little nervous about working so closely with others when I'm not even fully comfortable with the language.
Yeah.
What if I make mistakes or don't understand what's going on?
It's completely normal to feel that way, especially when you're pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. But remember, everyone in that group is probably on a similar journey. They're likely to be understanding and supportive.
Okay, I hope so. But what about when you're in a group and there's someone who's just not contributing, or they're dominating the conversation and not letting others speak?
That's definitely a valid concern. It all comes down to open and honest communication.
But wouldn't that be awkward, especially in a new culture where you might not fully understand the norms around being direct with people?
It's all about finding the right balance between being direct and being respectful. You don't have to be confrontational, but you can express your concerns in a polite and constructive way.
So like if someone's not participating, you could just ask them if they're having any trouble, or if there's something the group can do to help.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they're shy about their language skills, or they're just having trouble understanding the topic. By reaching out and offering support, you're not only helping them feel more comfortable, but also creating a more inclusive environment for everyone.
And what about when someone's taking over and not giving anyone else a chance to talk? How do you handle that without being rude?
Again, clear communication is key. You can politely suggest that it's important for everyone to have a chance to share their thoughts. You could even propose taking turns or using a talking stick if that helps.
Those are really good ideas.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's be honest. Group work can get a little messy sometimes. People have different opinions, and sometimes communication breaks down. How do you deal with those situations?
Well, group work is not always easy, but those challenges are actually valuable learning opportunities. Think of it as a chance to practice your communication and problem-solving skills in a real-world situation.
So instead of getting frustrated when things get tough, I should just see it as a chance to get better at these important skills.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, you're not alone. Everyone in the group is facing similar challenges. So by working together to overcome those obstacles, you're not only getting things done, but you're also building stronger bonds as a team.
Okay, I see your point. But sometimes those disagreements can get really intense. How do you prevent things from turning into a big argument? Especially when there are language barriers and cultural differences involved.
That's where establishing a foundation of trust and respect becomes really important. When you feel safe and supported by your group members, you're more likely to approach disagreements with curiosity and a willingness to collaborate rather than getting defensive or hostile.
So it's all about building that sense of teamwork and shared purpose from the very beginning.
And there are things you can do to cultivate that sense of trust. One important thing is to make sure everyone feels heard and valued. Encourage active listening, where you're actually paying attention to what others are saying and trying to understand their point of view, even if you don't agree with it.
Right. So even if I disagree with someone, I can still acknowledge their feelings and try to understand where they're coming from.
Another key thing is to acknowledge and celebrate the diversity within the group.
You mean like recognizing that everyone brings their own unique experiences, skills, and cultural backgrounds to the table?
Precisely. And that diversity is actually a strength, not a weakness. It allows you to approach problems from different angles and come up with truly innovative solutions.
So we should embrace those differences and use them to our advantage.
Exactly. The more diverse the group, the more creative and innovative you can be.
Okay, that's a good point. But let's say we've done all that. We've established clear expectations, created an inclusive environment, and we're approaching disagreements with respect and a willingness to find common ground. What happens if there's still someone who's just not pulling their weight? What do you do then?
That can be a difficult situation. Remember, open communication is key. So talk to the person directly and try to understand why they're not participating. Maybe they're struggling with the material, feeling overwhelmed, or dealing with personal issues outside of the group.
So I should try to understand what's going on and see if there's a way to help.
Exactly. And sometimes just knowing that someone cares and is willing to listen can make a huge difference. If they're open to it, you could offer to help them catch up, explain things they're struggling with, or just be a listening ear.
That's a really thoughtful approach. Yeah. It's like turning a potential conflict into an opportunity to build a connection and offer support.
And remember, everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. Maybe this person isn't great at brainstorming, but they're amazing at organizing information or editing written work.
It's true. Everyone wants to feel like they're making a difference, and sometimes a little recognition is all it takes. You know, as you're talking, I'm starting to realize that group work is about something much bigger than just getting tasks done. It's about learning to trust each other and to trust ourselves.
You're absolutely right, and that brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of group work. Its ability to help us tap into our intuition.
Intuition? Wait, we're talking about like sixth sense stuff here?
Not exactly, but it can feel like that sometimes. Think of it this way. When you're collaborating with others, you're constantly being exposed to new ideas, different approaches, and unexpected solutions. And this back and forth of sharing ideas, trying things out, and seeing what works can actually help you develop your own sense of intuition.
Interesting. But group work is all about logic, planning, and communication. Where does intuition fit into all of that?
It's subtle, but it's definitely there. When you're working in a group, you're constantly bombarded with information, ideas, and opinions. And sometimes the best solutions don't come from a carefully laid out plan, but from those spontaneous moments of insight, those flashes of inspiration that seemingly come out of nowhere.
So you're saying group work can actually create the perfect conditions for those aha moments.
Exactly. And here's the key. When you're in a supportive and collaborative environment, you're more likely to trust those intuitive leaps, even if you can't fully explain them logically.
Okay. But how do you develop that sense of intuition? Is it something you're born with, or can you learn it over time?
It's a bit of both. Some people are naturally more intuitive, but everyone can develop their intuitive abilities, and group work can actually be a fantastic training ground for honing those skills.
How so?
Well, as we've been discussing, group work exposes you to different perspectives, challenges your assumptions, and encourages you to think outside the box. And all of these things can help you get better at seeing patterns, making connections, and trusting your instincts.
It's like group work is a workout for your intuition.
Exactly. But of course, those intuitive leaps don't always lead you in the right direction. So how do you know when to trust your gut and when to question it? Especially in a new environment where everything is unfamiliar.
That's a great question. It's important to remember that intuition isn't always right. Sometimes those feelings can be based on fear bias or just not having enough information.
So how can you tell the difference between a real intuitive insight and one that might be misleading?
It takes practice and discernment. Pay attention to how you feel physically. When you have a true intuitive hit, it often comes with a feeling of calm and clarity.
So it's like a feeling of knowing something without necessarily knowing how you know it.
Exactly. It's a sense of peace and certainty. But if you're feeling anxious, doubtful, or hesitant, it might be a sign that your intuition is clouded by fear or uncertainty.
Okay. So it's not just about the thought itself, but also the feeling that comes with it. Exactly. And if you're ever unsure, it's always a good idea to talk to someone you trust about your intuitive insights, especially someone who understands the culture you're in. And this brings us to another interesting point. By working in groups, we don't just learn to trust our own intuition, but also the intuition of others.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
So by seeing how other people's gut feelings work out, we start to appreciate the value of intuition in general.
Exactly. We start to see that intuition isn't just some random mystical thing. It's a real skill that can be developed and honed, and it can lead to amazing insights and breakthroughs.
I bet that's super helpful in a new environment where you might not have a lot of personal experience to rely on. Being able to draw on the collective wisdom of the group could be a huge advantage.
Absolutely. It's like having a network of guides, each with their own unique perspective and intuitive insights. And by combining those insights, you can navigate unfamiliar territory with more confidence and clarity. And it's not just about learning new things, it's about personal growth and transformation. When you're collaborating, you're constantly challenged to push yourself outside your comfort zone, to communicate your ideas effectively, and to learn from the experiences of others.
So it's like group work helps us become better versions of ourselves. As we're talking, I'm realizing that group work isn't just about checking things off a list. It's about building relationships, expanding our perspectives, and even connecting with our inner wisdom. It's pretty profound when you think about it that way.
Absolutely. And the best part is that it's something anyone can do. Regardless of your background, your skills, or how comfortable you are with the language, you can benefit from the transformative power of collaboration.
It's so cool that group work seems to be a universal concept.
Exactly. And the more you practice working together, the more you'll start to see the connections between communication, problem-solving, creativity, and intuition. It's a journey of continuous learning and growth.
And a journey that can be incredibly rewarding, both personally and professionally.
Remember to embrace the opportunity to learn from others, support each other, and celebrate the amazing things you can accomplish together.
I will. But before we move on, I'm curious to hear more about your personal experiences with group work. Have you had any particularly memorable moments or projects that really stand out?
You know, it's funny you should ask that because one experience immediately comes to mind, and it perfectly illustrates how group work can not only help you get things done, but also create deep personal connections.
Oh, I'd love to hear about it.
It was back when I was in university, and we had to create a presentation on a complex social issue. Our group was very diverse, each of us with our own unique backgrounds and perspectives. At first, things were a little chaotic. We had different ideas, different ways of communicating, and even some cultural misunderstandings that created a bit of tension.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Right. But instead of letting those challenges derail us, we decided to use them as an opportunity to grow. We took the time to really listen to each other, understand where everyone was coming from, and find ways to bridge those differences. We started having open and honest conversations about our perspectives, our values, and even our personal experiences that shaped our views on the issue.
So you turn those potential conflicts into opportunities for deeper understanding and connection.
Exactly. And as we shared our stories and listened to each other, something magical happened. We started to see the issue not just as an abstract concept, but as something that had real human impact. And we started to care about each other, not just as classmates, but as individuals navigating the complexities of life.
That's so powerful. It's like the group work itself became a catalyst for personal growth and transformation.
It really did. And what's amazing is that as we started to connect on a deeper level, our collaboration became much smoother. We were able to tap into each other's strengths, support each other's weaknesses, and come up with creative solutions that none of us could have imagined on our own. And our final presentation was incredible. It wasn't just about delivering information, it was about sharing our hearts and minds, our vulnerabilities, and our hopes. The audience could feel that. They were moved, inspired, and they left with a deeper understanding of the issue and of each other.
Wow. Sounds like that experience went far beyond just meeting the requirements of the assignment. It was truly transformative for everyone involved.
It absolutely was. And you know what's even more remarkable? The connections we formed during that project lasted far beyond the classroom. We became close friends, supported each other through life's ups and downs, and some of us are still in touch today. Welcome back.
It's so inspiring to hear how you and your classmates were able to turn those initial challenges and disagreements into opportunities for growth and understanding.
It really highlights how important it is to embrace diversity and use those different perspectives to create something truly amazing. And it brings us to something we talked about earlier, the connection between group work and intuition.
Right. It's like when everyone's sharing their ideas in a group setting, sometimes those aha moments just come out of nowhere, almost as if the group itself has its own intuition.
That's such a fascinating observation. And it gets to the heart of how working in groups can actually make our individual intuition stronger. When we're open to different perspectives and we actively listen and share, we're basically expanding our own intuitive abilities.
So it's like group work is a training ground for learning to trust your gut.
That's a great way to put it. By seeing how others use their intuition and how those insights play out in real life, you become more confident in your own ability to recognize those subtle cues and make decisions that aren't just based on logic or analysis.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So how do we actually practice using our intuition, especially when we're working in a group? Do you have any tips or strategies?
Absolutely. One of the best ways to cultivate intuition in a group setting is to create a safe space for everyone to share their thoughts and feelings, even if they seem a little unconventional outside the box. Encourage brainstorming sessions where there are no wrong answers, and people feel comfortable expressing their intuition without being judged. And pay attention to those subtle cues, things like body language, tone of voice, even those moments of silence which can sometimes speak louder than words. When you start tuning into those subtle signals, you'll begin to see patterns and connections that your logical mind might miss.
It's like we're training ourselves to become more sensitive to those subtle energies and insights that are always there, but we often overlook them.
Exactly. And the more you practice this, the more you'll see how intuition can guide you to creative solutions, innovative ideas, and even deeper connections with the people you're working with.
I never realized how deep the connection between group work and intuition could be. But let's be realistic. Sometimes those intuitive leaps can lead us down the wrong path. How do we know when to trust our gut and when to question it? Especially when we're in a new environment where everything feels unfamiliar.
That's a really important question, and it highlights the need for discernment. Intuition is powerful, but it's not always right. Sometimes those gut feelings can be influenced by fear bias or incomplete information.
So how can you tell the difference between a genuine intuitive insight and one that might be misleading, especially when you're in a new place?
One of the biggest red flags is when you feel uneasy or anxious, along with that intuitive nudge. If you feel pressured, rushed, or unsure, it's a good sign to pause and check in with yourself. Ask yourself, is this feeling coming from a place of fear or a place of knowing?
It's like paying attention to those subtle emotional cues can help us figure out whether our intuition is guiding us in the right direction or being influenced by outside factors.
And another helpful strategy is to talk to someone you trust about your intuitive insights, someone who's been in similar situations or understands the culture you're in. They can offer a fresh perspective and help you see any blind spots or potential problems.
But before we move on to the last part of our deep dive, I want to go back to something we touched on earlier, the importance of creating a supportive and inclusive environment within a group. What are some concrete strategies we can use to build that sense of safety and belonging, especially when we're working with people from different cultural backgrounds?
That's a really important question, and it's crucial to remember that creating an inclusive environment is an ongoing process. It requires conscious effort and attention. It's not just about avoiding offensive language or stereotypes. It's about building a space where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued for their unique contributions.
It's like setting the ground rules for respectful and productive interactions.
And it's important to remember that these guidelines might be different depending on the cultural backgrounds of the people in the group. For instance, in some cultures, interrupting someone is considered rude, while in others, it's seen as a sign of active engagement. So it's crucial to be aware of these cultural differences and adjust your communication style accordingly.
Being culturally sensitive is key to creating a truly inclusive space.
Exactly. It's about creating an environment where it's safe to make mistakes, to ask questions, and to learn from each other without fear of judgment or ridicule.
Creating that sense of safety and trust allows people to relax, be themselves, and fully participate in the process. This is all so valuable. Starting to see how creating an inclusive environment isn't just about being politically correct. It's about setting the stage for true collaboration, creativity, and growth.
Exactly. And it's about understanding that diversity is a strength, not a weakness. When we embrace our differences and leverage those unique perspectives, we unlock a potential that's far greater than what we could achieve on our own.
I'm really excited to dive into the more practical side of group work. Now that we understand the why, let's talk about the how. What are some strategies we can use to make those collaborative experiences truly effective and enjoyable for everyone?
Great question. The source material actually offers some excellent advice on how to make group work successful. One of the most important things is to establish clear goals and expectations right from the beginning.
That makes sense. But goals can sometimes feel a bit abstract. How do you take those big goals and turn them into concrete steps that everyone can understand and work on?
That's where breaking down those bigger goals into smaller, more manageable tasks comes in. This not only makes the work seem less overwhelming, but also allows individuals to use their strengths and take ownership of specific parts of the project.
I love that. Everyone feels like they're making a real difference. But what about when disagreements come up or the group hits a roadblock? How do you deal with those bumps in the road without throwing the whole project off course?
That's when clear communication and conflict resolution strategies are super important. Encourage open and respectful dialogue.
So it's about creating a safe space for people to voice their concerns and work through disagreements in a productive way.
And remember, conflict isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes it can actually lead to growth and innovation if it's approached with the right attitude.
Right. Those moments of friction can actually spark new ideas that wouldn't have come up otherwise.
Absolutely. And sometimes just taking a break, changing perspectives, or asking for input from someone outside the group can help everyone move past a roadblock and find a new way forward.
This is all so helpful. But let's face it, group work can also be time-consuming and even frustrating sometimes. How do you make sure that the benefits outweigh the challenges and that the group stays on track and productive?
That's where good time management and organization skills come in. Setting clear deadlines, scheduling regular check-ins, and using tools like shared calendars and project management platforms can keep everyone accountable and make sure things move along smoothly.
You know, as you're describing this, I'm realizing that effective group work is a lot like conducting an orchestra. You have all these talented musicians with their own instruments, but it's the conductor who brings it all together, harmonizing those individual parts into a beautiful symphony.
That's a fantastic analogy. Just like in an orchestra, clear communication, well-defined roles, and a shared sense of purpose are essential for creating a harmonious and powerful result.
This has been an amazing deep dive into the world of group work. I feel so much more confident and excited about embracing these collaborative experiences, now knowing that I have the tools and strategies to make them truly rewarding and productive.
I'm so glad to hear that. And remember, the real beauty of group work isn't just about checking things off to-do list. It's about the journey itself, the connections we make, the lessons we learn, and the personal growth we experience along the way are the real treasures that will stay with us long after the project is over.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the power of group work. Remember, the next time you have the opportunity to work together with others, embrace it with an open mind, a willingness to learn, and a curious heart. You might just be amazed by the incredible things that can happen when we come together with a shared purpose and a collaborative spirit.